Hi everyone. The book I'm reviewing today is called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza. I absolutely love following the work of John Sanei, and through a few of his books that I've read and also podcasts that I've listened and events that I've attended, he always mentions Dr. Joe Dispenza. So when I saw this book, I purchased mine from Take A Lot if you're in South Africa. I thought, you know what, let me grab a copy, and I'm so happy I did. This has been an absolutely fantastic read. I couldn't put the book down, and I learned so much from this. I would put this book into one of your top 10 must read in your lifetime books. So if you haven't read any of the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, do yourself a favor and do that. And thank you, John, for introducing me to this work. I'm going to read a few extracts and then you can decide if this is something you'd like to read as well. As all those heightened feelings flood the body and change its physiology, this chemical cocktail fires up a set of circuits in the brain, causing you to think equal to those emotions. Now you're telling your associate off in 10 different ways in the privacy of your own mind. You indignantly conjure up a litany of past events that validate your present upset, brainstorming through a letter recounting all those complaints you've wanted to lodge. In your mind, you've already forwarded it to your boss before you even arrive at work. You exit the car dazed and crazed and a breath away from homicidal. Hello, walking, talking model of an angry person. And all of this started with a single thought. In this moment, it seems impossible to think greater than you feel, and that's why it's so hard to change. The result of the cyclical communication between your brain and body is that you tend to react predictably to these kinds of situations. You create patterns of the same familiar thoughts and feelings. You unconsciously behave in automatic ways, and you are mired in these routines. This is how the chemical you functions. And I think this is why I enjoyed this book so much. This is something and a situation that no matter what type of backgrounds we come from, as human beings, we can all absolutely relate to this, right? Because that's how we're wired, that's how we're built. So this book helps you to understand yourself better and these situations and how your brain works, and to be able to control any of this, so to be able to know yourself better. It was eye-opening. Think about that. 5% of the mind is conscious, struggling against the 95% that is running subconscious automatic programs. We've memorized a set of behaviors so well that we have become an automatic, habitual body mind. In fact, when the body has memorized a thought, action, or feeling to the extent that the body is the mind, when mind and body are one, we are in a state of being the memory of ourselves. And if 95% of who we are by age 35 is a set of involuntary programs, memorized behaviors, and habitual emotional reactions, it follows that 95% of our day we are unconscious. We only appear to be awake. Yikes. So a person may consciously want to be happy, healthy, or free, but the experience of hosting 20 years of suffering and the repeated cycling of those chemicals of pain and pity have become subconsciously conditioned the body to be in a habitual state. We live by habit when we're no longer aware of what we're thinking, doing, or feeling. We become unconscious. The greatest habit we must break is the habit of being ourselves. Again, this happens because we practice something so many times that our bodies know better than our conscious minds. The body subconsciously has become the mind. This is one of the reasons why it's so hard to change. The conscious mind may be in the present, but the subconscious body mind is living in the past. For instance, you're driving to work and you stop at your usual coffee shop, which is all out of your favorite hazelnut coffee. Disappointed, you grumble to yourself why a major enterprise like this one can't keep in stock such a very popular flavor. At work, you're irritated to see another car park in your preferred parking spot. Stepping into an empty elevator, you are exasperated to discover that someone ahead of you pushed all the buttons. When you finally walk into the office, someone comments, "What's up? You seem kind of down." You tell your story and the person sympathizes. You sum it up, "I'm in a bad mood. I'll get over it." The thing is, you don't. A mood is a chemical state of being, generally short-term, that is an expression of a prolonged emotional reaction. Something in your environment, in this case, the failure of your barista to meet your needs, followed by a few other minor annoyances, sets off an emotional response. The chemicals of that emotion don't get used up instantly, so their effect lingers for a while. I call that the refractory period, the time after their initial release and until the effect diminishes. The longer the refractory period, obviously, the longer you experience those feelings. When the chemical refractory period of an emotional reaction lasts for hours to days, that's a mood. What happens when that recently triggered mood lingers? You've been in a bit of a funk since that day, and now you look around the room during a staff meeting, and all you think of is that this person's tie is hideous, and the nasally tone of your boss is worse than nails on a chalkboard. At this point, you're not just in a mood, you're reflecting a temperament, a tendency towards the habitual expression of an emotion through certain behaviors. A temperament is an emotional reaction with a refractory period that lasts from weeks to months. Eventually, if you keep the refractory period of an emotion going for months and years, that tendency turns into a personality trait. At that point, others will describe you as bitter or resentful, or angry or judgmental. Our personality traits, then, are frequently based in our past emotions. Most of the time, personality, how we think, act, and feel, is anchored in the past. So to change our personalities, we have to change the emotions that we memorize. We have to move out of the past. When we think about it, the real difference between animals and ourselves is that although we both experience stress, humans re-experience and pre-experience traumatic situations. For instance, when a lion was chasing your ancestors, the stress response was doing what it was designed to do, protect them from their outer environment. That's adaptive. But if days on end you fret about your promotion, over-focus on your presentation to upper management, or worry about your mother being in the hospital, these situations create the same chemicals as though you were being chased by a lion. Now, that's maladaptive. You're staying too long in emergency mode. Fight or flight is using up the energy your internal environment needs. Your body is stealing this vital energy from your immune, digestive, and endocrine systems, among others, and directing it to the muscles that you use to fight a predator or run from danger. But in your situation, that's only working against you. From a psychological perspective, overproduction of stress hormones creates the human emotions of anger, fear, envy, and hatred, incites feelings of aggression, frustration, anxiety, and insecurity, and causes us to experience pain, suffering, sadness, hopelessness, and depression. Most people spend the majority of their time preoccupied with negative thoughts and feelings. Is it likely that most of the things that are happening in our present circumstances are negative? Obviously not. Negativity runs so high because we are either living in anticipation of stress or re-experiencing it through a memory. So most of our thoughts and feelings are driven by those strong hormones of stress and survival. When our stress response is triggered, we focus on three things, and they are of highest importance: the body, the environment, and time. As a result, we begin to define ourselves within the confines of the physical realm. We become less spiritual, less conscious, less aware, and less mindful. I hope you've enjoyed these extracts. Let me know if you do read this book, if you have read this book, and also any other of Dr. Joe Dispenza's books that you've read. Thank you.